as you know, we're celebrating sustainability throughout the month of April, and today's really special. I mean, it's Earth Week, so we're welcoming 3 incredible female leaders in the fresh produce and grocery industry space. Welcome to the Produce Moms. This is the podcast where I talk to various people who've made an impact on the fruit and vegetable community. There are so many stories to share that will change the way you look at fresh produce. We are going to have so much fun today. We've got Michelle Zakin. She is the Senior Manager of Strategic Initiatives and part of the sustainability team at Walmart. We have Laura Himes. She is the Senior Merchandising Director of Produce at Walmart. And we have Janice McIntosh, Director of Marketing Innovation and Sustainability at Nature Right Farms. For those of you that follow along strongly with the Produce Moms, you know that we work with Nature Right Farms as one of our brand partners. So I want to thank them for all their support and also make sure that everyone knows we're proud to be partners with them. So it's great. And we had some of the Walmart colleagues on when we celebrated International Women's Day. So it's great to welcome 2 additional fierce female leaders from Walmart. And with that, let's get into introductions. Michelle, we'll start with you. Please say hello and introduce yourself.
My name's Michelle Zakin. As Lori mentioned, I sit on our Walmart sustainability team looking after our fresh food portfolio. And as I'm sure you can imagine, a big piece of fresh food is our work we're doing in produce. So excited to share a little more about that today.
Thank you. Laura Himes, and I'm Senior Merchandising Director in Produce at Walmart. Been at Walmart for about 10 years now, and I'll preempt your LinkedIn stalking, and I'll tell you that I've been in the produce industry my entire career and worked with some great companies before coming to Walmart, and really happy to be here with you today, Lori.
It is great to be here with all of you. Nice to meet you for the very first time in person. I have been with Nature Right Farms for 17 years and in the berry industry for about close to 30 now. Long time. Walmart are great partners of Nature Right Farms, so I'm just thrilled to be here with you. Thank you for the sustainability little intro. I can thank my father for that, who got me into it as a very young girl before sustainability even existed. So I'm sure he'd be very proud of me here today talking about this. So I'm excited to get on and talk a little bit about what we're doing and how we're supporting Walmart in their ventures and their initiatives moving forward.
Between the 4 voices here that are part of the show, Janice, myself, Michelle, and Laura, we're really representing the key critical stakeholders of how food gets downstream. You know, you've got the grower point of view with Janice, you've got the retailer point of view with Laura and Michelle, and then of course me, the shopper point of view. And it's going to be really interesting to see how much the consumer demands and interests are driving some of the innovations that Walmart and their vendors like Nature Ripe are doing together on the topic of sustainability. So with that, let's start off today's show with Michelle, whose title and role at Walmart is all about these sustainability food practices. So Michelle, tell us more, just background information on sustainability. Let's kick this show off with kind of maybe setting the current state and how we got here, where we're going, sort of commentary.
Absolutely, Laura. I'd love to share with everyone a little bit more about Walmart's sustainability journey. So for over 17 years, Walmart has made sustainability a priority. But to reach our goals of creating a more sustainable and equitable future, we've realized we need to go beyond sustainability as it's understood today. And that's why in 2020, we raised our ambition to become a regenerative company, one dedicated to placing nature and humanity at the center of our business practices. And I want to quickly distinguish for everyone the difference between sustainability and regeneration. Now, I think about sustainability as maintaining or conserving, while regeneration means restoring, renewing, and replenishing. Regeneration is additive. It's about putting back in more than you take out. And we've set really ambitious sustainability and regeneration goals here at Walmart to advance our work across 4 key pillars: climate, nature, waste, and people in our supply chain. So that first pillar, climate, is about greenhouse gas emissions. Walmart is targeting 0 emissions across our global operations by 2040 through reducing our absolute global operational emissions, zeroing out emissions from our full vehicle fleet, and powering our facilities with 100% renewable energy. We're also working with our suppliers, like Naturite, to avoid 1 billion metric tons or 1 gigaton of greenhouse gas emissions in our global value chain by 2030 via our program called Project Gigaton. Now, Project Gigaton is the largest private sector collective action on reducing emissions in supply chains. And through Project Gigaton, we've reduced or avoided over 750 million metric tons of emissions in our value chain since 2017. And we currently have over 5,000 suppliers engaged, which is awesome.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. So help me understand that from like a layman's term. I mean, those are huge numbers. You know, I mean, I didn't even know a gigaton was a number, to be honest with you. So, but help me understand, like, is there a way to like compare this? Like, is that enough? Is it like, how do you help people understand who are like, okay, that sounds amazing, but I don't even know what a gigaton is.
Yeah, it's a lot. As you mentioned, it's a really big number. And, you know, we think about emissions falling into 3 buckets. So there's the operational emissions of Walmart stores. There's the emissions related to the electricity that we purchase. And then there's this huge bucket that's all of the emissions generated in our supply chain, what we call scope 3 emissions. And Project Gigaton is really targeted at those scope 3 emissions. That's hard for Walmart to manage ourselves because we don't have full control. And that's why we work with partners like Naturite and all of our other amazing suppliers to help reduce and mitigate those emissions throughout our supply chain. So lots of work still to be done, but we're excited about where we've gotten to.
Yeah, I mean, and a worthy journey, because this is stuff that will affect, in a positive way, affect everyone all around the world, regardless of whether or not they shop at Walmart. They're benefiting from this.
Exactly. Everybody's benefiting. And, you know, we've got 3 other pillars of our kind of commitments too that I'd love to share, because I think that helps round out, you know, where we're going. The second pillar, so I just mentioned, first pillar is climate. That's about emissions. Second pillar is nature, and that's about our natural resources. And we've made the commitment to help protect, manage, or restore 50 million acres of land and 1 million square miles of ocean by 2030, along with the Walmart Foundation. And one of the ways we plan to reach that goal is via new sourcing models. So we're working to develop place-based and jurisdictional projects, which are new management approaches that create shared value for producers, suppliers, and communities across a given landscape or seascape. And these projects use sourcing and production models that help restore and rebuild the natural resources that communities depend on and that produce the goods that Walmart sells. And so a couple examples just to bring these to light. We're working on tuna sourcing in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. We're working on popcorn sourcing in Nebraska. And these are products that are on our shelves right now. Anyone can go to our stores and learn more about them. Now, the third pillar is about waste. And that's really about packaging and what gets thrown away. So Walmart's working towards a goal of 0 waste in our operations in key markets by 2025. And in 2021, which is the most recent data I have, we're working on pulling together last year's, we diverted 78% of our global operational waste from landfills and incineration. So you can imagine that's a pretty big number.
That's a huge number, 78%. That's amazing.
78%. And, you know, beyond just diverting waste, we're on a mission to make sure that our packaging is recyclable, reusable, or industrially compostable. And we've got lots of different pilots underway to innovate materials, product, and packaging formats that help eliminate plastic waste down the road. So that's directly, you know, helping our consumers make sure that there's not lots of waste happening in their own households. Another way we're working with consumers on waste is eliminating single-use shopping bags. So we've already gone ahead and done that in our Canada and Mexico markets. We have several states here in the US that have already eliminated single-use bags, and we've got a whole pipeline of more states to come. So really excited about that work too. And then just the last piece I'll add on waste is food waste, which is really relevant to everybody here. We're striving to eliminate food waste in our operations and engage with suppliers upstream and consumers downstream to reduce food waste and support community food recovery and hunger relief programs. So lots going on in the waste category. And the last one I'll mention is just that 4th pillar, so people and supply chains. And that's really about the people who create the products we sell. And Walmart aims to create economic prosperity for people around the world through its sourcing practices. We're committed to promoting human dignity by making responsible recruitment standard business practice. And we work really closely with our NGO partners to identify 10 global supply chains where we're focusing on tackling systemic risks to human rights. And that includes the produce supply chain too. So these four pillars, right, the climate, the nature, waste, and people, and our commitments that fall within really guide our work on sustainability and center all of our regeneration goals.
I love it. Beautiful overview. Michelle, you might not know this. My business is B Corp certified. So as you're talking,
Amazing.
I'm just like, oh my God, I love it. Yeah, we are the only influencer brand in the world right now that is B Corp certified. I hope more follow because everything that you're saying, it kind of takes me back to that, to the certification process that we just went through 1 year ago. These are key values. And it's funny, like as you're talking, I'm brought back to B Corp. But what I always tell people about my B Corp journey, those are just the values that agriculture and all the farmers that we're blessed to work with taught me. You know, all of these values that you say, as you're talking about climate, nature, waste, people, and supply chains, I feel like that comes alive with each and every farming brand that would be a vendor of your produce department that we work with, that you work with. And it's one of my key motivators to do what I do at the Produce Moms, because when I approach that produce department, I see all this amazing work that's happening. And I just don't feel like your average, household, there's just no awareness. But these stories are so rich. The purpose is so deep. And this really is work that's changing the world. So thank you for that very comprehensive overview. I think it just really, it just demonstrates what great progress has already been made. I mean, some of those data points, 78%, that's amazing. That was with the waste, correct?
Our operational waste, that's correct.
That's amazing. So, and I just look forward to seeing all these numbers go up. I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about sustainability. There's no real finish line. We just keep advancing the benchmark, It's like, here we go. We met one goal. We're on our way to the next, We're not going to stop at 78%, folks. So that's what I love about this. So thank you very much. Janice, anything that you would like to add, from your point of view, listening to these remarks that Michelle has shared with these 4 core pillars at Walmart? I mean, obviously you're familiar with them.
Very. Very. We report into them every year. I think Nature Ripe, we're about at 67,000 metric tons we've contributed to your goal over the course of the last 3 years or 4 years actually reporting. What Walmart has done to kind of move the goalpost every year, and not in a negative way, but they're expanding on what their original goals were for their suppliers, which has made us in turn then start collecting more information. So we're now reporting in 4 goals, or we've made 4 commitments because they want us to set a goal and then report on those goals. So we're happy to say that we have made the Giga Guru status for the last 3 years, which has been huge. The problem is, don't tell me there's a competition, because I'm going to make sure that we definitely hit those goals. And I was sitting in Bentonville in one of those, and they announced and they brought out everybody up to show that they were Giga Gurus. And I'm looking around and I said, I'm going back and I'm going to be coming back as a Giga Guru. So anyway, so as a company, we have what this process has created is a knowledge we didn't know existed. So our growers were actually doing all these great things. We had no knowledge of it because we didn't ask those hard questions. And all of a sudden we realized, oh, I didn't know you were using renewable energy. I didn't know that you took all your waste and put it back into the field and composted it. I didn't know that you take all your recycling to the local recycle plant, whatever it is. It's like this has been more of a gathering and measuring versus telling our growers that they have to do something different, because sustainability is part of our growers' DNA. some of our farms have been around for 100 years. The only reason they're there for 100 years is because they manage their factory floor correctly. If you did poor things to your soils and to your factory floor, you're not going to get a good product. So the beauty is they actually, on their own, in most cases, have made these initiatives part of their growing operations. And my job has been, how do I collect it? Because they're very shy about sharing what they're doing. It's asking them questions takes away from what they're doing every day. They don't want to stop what they're doing and have to tell me something. So that has been kind of the biggest thing for us, is trying to get them to share, send pictures, to give us volumes, give us weight, start measuring the waste that you're disking back in or spreading back on your field. And when I say waste, like we're talking about branches and leaves and maybe blueberries that are coals that didn't make it into the pack, but they can go back into the soil. So that's when we talk about that kind of waste. And thank God we're in our situation, we have very little waste naturally. But the good part is what we do goes back into the field, which is awesome.
NatureSweet believes the more you put into something, the more you get out. We grow our produce with the goal of transforming lives. Having a transformational effect in the produce industry starts with our associates. NatureSweet is committed to transforming the lives of agricultural workers in North America through education, better pay, and access to healthcare. Recently, NatureSweet launched Unleashing Your Power, a pilot program for agricultural workers to earn their bachelor's degree. NatureSweet is expected to impact about 2,000 lives through education in 2023. NatureSweet is the single source solution for greenhouse-grown vegetables and is the #1 selling brand in snacking tomatoes. NatureSweet tomatoes, cucumbers, and sweet peppers are hand-picked at the peak of freshness and sold at major supermarket retailers throughout the United States, Mexico, and Canada. We are proud to earn Fair Trade and EFI certifications. NatureSweet is dedicated to having a positive social, environmental, and economic impact within our communities. Learn more about NatureSweet by visiting naturesweet.com.
This push for transparency, because a program like this, it's very pragmatic. It's rooted in data, like measuring and reporting is part of it. And I think that honestly, when I look back on I'm almost 42 years old. I will be, I'll be 42 when this drops. Okay. But when I think, I've been grocery shopping for like 20 years now. And I've worked in the supply chain for almost that amount of time as well. Prior to doing marketing and communications, I was in wholesale distribution. It was not always this transparent. So Janice, when you're talking about 100-old farming operations, sure, they don't want to take photos and like tell their stories, because in the past that was all almost treated as if they were trade secrets, not a measurable
When some of them
data.
still are. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you don't want to share everything in case it is. But in most cases, they get it now. It's all over the news. It's part of everything we do every day now. So they understand.
Sure. I love that. And I will say too, just from my point of view as a shopper, I also feel like, and as someone who's passionate about this industry and like made this my career, I will say that I think the lack of transparency of years past was like one of the biggest things that hurt our industry too. So I love to see that this, is coming in a very collaborative way. Yes, market access at Walmart, there's certain benchmarks and requirements that are rooted in sustainability that we want of our vendor community. Those are things that, frankly, just they make for a more transparent supply chain in addition to a more sustainable world. So I'm all for it. And I think it's a great thing from a shopper point of view. All right, Laura, I want you to answer a question that's important. We haven't even done this yet. So let's have you answer the question. Define sustainability.
Yes. Well, before I try to define sustainability, because I'm sure there's a lot of different angles you could take on that, I do want to congratulate Janice for being a Giga Guru, because we do appreciate the Giga Guru. So really appreciate you doing that, especially 3 years in a row like that. So thank you for that. Sustainability. So what is sustainability, particularly for Walmart? It's really about, when I think about it, it's about doing the right thing. It's really doing the right thing for the future generations, for our consumers, our customers, the communities, and the planet. And it's really rethinking, I think, the way that we do our business throughout the entire supply chain to integrate environmental and social sustainability in everything that we do. And from a Walmart perspective, it's about being a leader in the industry and being able to influence the suppliers for their engagement and collaboration. Because sustainability really cannot be done alone or in a vacuum. It really, truly takes the entire industry to get behind the change that we want and to operating in that way to really move the needle. So it's definitely a collaborative initiative for everyone in the industry.
Michelle, from your point of view, is sustainability a universal thing, or is there a differentiation between local sustainability versus USA sustainability versus global sustainability?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lori. I mean, the principles of sustainability that Janice and Laura have talked about are really the same, regardless of whether you're thinking about your own backyard, your community, your country, or the whole world. But what really changes is what are the different challenges that are most pressing to focus on in those different geographies and at those different scales. So, thinking about what we do here at Walmart, we source products from our own backyard, right in our home state of Arkansas. But we also source products from all across the globe. And the social and environmental challenges that we're working on really vary depending on where those products are coming from and kind of what stage of production they're in. So we work with tons of different partners across our value chain to help us really focus our efforts where they're going to have the most impact based on the supply chain, based on the geography, and based on what the community really needs in those areas.
So, Laura, when you think about how you conduct business at Walmart, you got a really important role as it relates to fresh produce that's available at Walmart, every Walmart in the United States. How important is sustainability in regards to the way that you conduct business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For us at Walmart, everything that we do and every decision we make really evolves around the customer and what the customer wants and what the customer needs. And sustainability is definitely an important factor in the decisions we made, and particularly how we source from different suppliers. But so it is a factor. It's an important factor. There are other factors that we consider as well. I mean, obviously things like food safety, the price, the quality, freshness. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we look at holistically. So we have the best product for our consumers. The best outcome, of course, is when you can have all of that at once. And all of these factors come together. We do know that, sustainability and transparency particularly is really important for the customer. Particularly when you have, the Gen X generation and people want to know where their food came from, where did their produce comes from in the whole supply chain. So we really want to have transparency in the entire supply chain. And sustainability is one component of that. And they really want to understand how has the product or the produce in this particular instance has been grown. And they want to know if it's grown in a sustainable, responsible way. And so we as buyers also, we encourage and support and help influence our suppliers in the efforts that they're making towards their sustainability and regenerative ag practices. Because we know that's important to us, to the consumer, and to the planet.
So, Janice, from a vendor point of view, and a vendor that's received the Giga Hero, what's the title again?
Giga Guru.
Giga Hero, a Giga Hero
Yeah.
vendor at that. I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but I still have to answer it or ask it of you.
Mm-hmm.
How has the Walmart sustainability programs affected or modified your day-to-day life and work?
Me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and speaking company wide. I mean,
yeah, I was on my
here.
soapbox for years.
Yeah.
Telling everybody we got to do this, and finally they said, "Just give her the title. Just give her the title." And that was about 3 years ago.
I
And
remember
since
when
then,
you changed your title. And you know what's funny? Speaking of titles, if anyone's tuning in from Nature Life, I always just say that Janice is the Chief Sustainability Officer. So
right.
that's something for you to consider at Nature
Okay,
Life
please
Farms.
don't. Yeah, yeah. No, it's I'm inundated daily, and we've created an internal team that is representative of all growing regions, and we meet once a month, and we start with the Walmart questions a year ahead of time. We've gotten better over the course of the last 3 years, and I don't hit them up in September. I hit them up in December the year before saying, please start collecting. So I keep them present, that they need to understand that I'm going to need this in September. Don't come back to me and start saying, I don't have it, I need more time, because I don't want to receive it a week before it's due. Yeah. And they have to fill out all these different reports. So in that case, it's the collection has changed for me to something that I have now an assistant that helps me. And we collect it, and every time there's something new that comes up, because Walmart did actually change it this year, I will let everybody on our team know that we have to start doing things differently. There's more involved. So it's definitely takes up a bigger chunk of my daily time.
Yeah. And you're talking about like collect it. You're talking about all the data.
Everything
that comes back to those 4 pillars that Michelle said: climate, nature, waste, people, and supply chain.
Right. And I don't deal with the people. That we do have a person on staff that just deals with the social. Okay. But yeah, for the other things, we need to know, because what happens is when you're in a with our type of growing, we move our growing every 6 weeks to different areas within the country or outside the U.S. Right, and it's hard for them to remember, in September what they put to waste unless I remind them, collect it during your season, right? Yeah. So these are the things that they're not used to, that they have to change their operation in order to capture this data and send it to me. So that's the type of thing that's changed for sure.
I absolutely hear you. I think that's it's great to hear your description of it, Janice. And I think that maybe some people, as you were talking, maybe I'm the only one, but it did remind me of like my accountant on me at tax time. All right. So let's stick with you, Janice, and talk a little bit more about, you have a unique role with the Consumer Goods Forum. So like, I have heard of the Consumer Goods Forum, but I really couldn't tell you what they do. But I did recently read an article where you have this pretty significant leadership role with the Consumer Goods Forum. I want you to just tell us more about that. How does that role, your leadership role with the Consumer Goods Forum, how does it affect the objectives that you have as it relates to the work with Walmart? And also, how does that affect consumers?
Oh, okay. Well, the Consumer Goods Forum has worked on a number of things in the past. One was the GFSI was part of it for the food safety. And then they just finished creating the scope for benchmarking your certification for social. And I wasn't part of any of that. I stepped in when it got to the environmental part, when they started wanting to make it easier on everyone, that they're all benchmarking their certifications to the same scope. So imagine having a set of rules or a scope, and they have all these different certifiers all over that have their own schemes that, there's a number of them, which Walmart is very familiar with because they've given us the list of the sustainability schemes that they work with. We want to make sure they're all certifying against the same scope. It's the same things, water, everything. And so I'm on the working group with 4 other women, and we're going through and putting together the scope of what it should cover. And I do have some experience in the sustainability certification because we did have one of our owners in Peru go through it recently, and our strawberry owner is going through it now. And so we kind of understand the way it flows when you go through an audit, because they come out, they audit to make sure you're doing everything sustainability wise on the farm or in your operation. And we just want to make sure that a company like Walmart accepts this certification. And the only way that they're going to accept it is if it is benchmarked against the main scope that covers everything they want. And Walmart is a stakeholder in the Consumer Goods Forum. They're obviously a member. And so they're looking forward to making sure that all of us come forward with our certifications and it covers everything that they would like to see on it. So after we're done as a working group, we present it to the committee, the steering committee. They review it. Then we put it out for public comment, and public people can all comment. Does it cover? Does it work for them, or is it missing something? So it's kind of complicated, but in a nutshell, that's what it is.
It feels like the Consumer Goods Forum works as a catalyst for, putting benchmarks or standards around something that doesn't necessarily have a finish line. Like how we keep talking, like you have to have these special interest groups, these thought leadership groups, these active discussions with public comment sessions, because there is in a topic that can be as wide net as sustainability and a topic that's constantly changing. I mean, regenerative agriculture has been around for a very long time, but I certainly didn't hear it as part of our key values in food marketing 5 years ago, the way that it's a key marketing pillar today as it relates to marketing food. So I bring it up because I think it's important. I think that modern day branding and leadership always includes some of that activist work. And I think that it's great work that you're doing, Janice, to advance the Consumer Goods Forum. And thanks for your clarity on what they do, because I really didn't even know. So that's great to hear. All right, Laura, let's get back to you and let's talk about food waste. This is a topic we talk about all the time at the Produce Moms, because as it relates to food waste, about 40% of what is, it's just under, I think the refed data, it's now like 36% of what is harvested in the US in terms of fresh produce ends up in the trash. And the lion's share of that number occurs at the household level. So at the Produce Moms, that's something we're constantly talking about. How do we help people understand, like, your produce, how can you use all your produce, mitigate that food shrink at home? And it comes back to storage tips. It comes back to, inspiration on how to serve it, helping people understand, the harvest dates, the best by dates, the expiration dates, all those different things. But let's talk specifically about food waste in fresh produce. Any stats you want to share? How are you and how's Walmart taking action to mitigate food waste? Because it's a big deal in fresh produce.
Massive. Yeah. It's a really big deal. And it's a big deal for, as you said, the consumers, and retailers and the growers, right? So it's one of those topics that really spans the entire supply chain. At Walmart, there's a few things that we're trying to do to eliminate or reduce food waste. And, probably one of the biggest things is just trying to give more freshness back to the consumer by moving it faster through the supply chain. So if the consumer had more freshness, then, they'd have more time to eat it before it goes bad. So we've been working a lot with our, suppliers and with our operators internally, is just how do we move product quicker through the supply chain, as quickly as we possibly can. And then when we do have extra product, which always happens, because this is never, it never aligns perfectly where our supply and demand aligns perfectly. Then we support community food recoveries and hunger relief programs. So when food goes unsold, Walmart works to get it to the people and the places that they need it the most. So for an example, just some stats on how much we've donated. Since 2006, Walmart and Sam's Club have donated 7 billion pounds of food from our network of stores, clubs, and distribution centers to Feeding America food banks. And in last year alone, we donated, it was almost 700 million pounds of food in the U.S. And in addition to that, Walmart and the foundation, they provide funds to increase the capacity of the meal system, that charitable meal system, to recover and distribute fresh food, so that they have the capacity also to be able to store perishable food. And then in addition to that, I mean, just from, merchant side, we are exploring, different technologies and packaging options to be able to extend the shelf life of produce, which will then give, another way of giving more days back to the customer and reduce waste in the customer's home. So there's just a lot of different angles we're taking it, really trying to give more shelf life to the customer. And in addition to, when we do have extra product, how do we donate that rather than throw it away and make it, and as Michelle said, reducing what goes to the landfill.
Well, thanks. That's amazing. So let's talk about food as medicine, because that comes alive in the produce department in such a unique way, Laura. I mean, and the food as medicine concept. That's kind of feel like, I previously said regenerative agriculture is a term I'm hearing all the time. Not a novel concept by any means. Food as medicine, not a novel concept by any means, but here we are, like, it's a top of mind concept, especially as it relates to grocery retail strategy, how people are approaching their food. So anything you'd like to share on that, and specifically, how does it work together with your sustainability efforts?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, you're on target there. Just food as medicine. Everyone's talking about it now, right? And, but I would argue that there's probably nothing more nutritious or better for you than fresh produce. So fresh produce is really the center of attention in the whole food as medicine, topic. And I think all the work that, we're doing, in our sustainability that Michelle talked about is really helping our produce be kind of a win-win for both the customer and the planet. So we can win in the nutritious aspect of it and the sustainability aspect of it together. What we try to do internally in Walmart and within produce, but also beyond, is really trying to make the food more affordable and nutritious by increasing more like nutritious assortment, also improving access to nutritious food. And we do that through not only our stores, but also online, and growing the online penetration of nutritious foods. And also just educating our customers and the communities on making better food choices. So for example, in 2021, we launched something called Build for Better program online, which helps customers identify products that are better for them, and better for the planet at the same time. So the Build for Better icon includes foods like with nutritional benefits, like our Great For You items, and then products that are third-party certified as sustainable, and then household and beauty items made without materials or ingredients that the customers may not want. So definitely there's a lot of attention put to food and medicine. And as you said, it's something that we're really looking at growing as well, because it's something our customers are asking for.
100%. And no better place. I always tell people, bite for bite, the best thing you can put in your body is found right there in the produce department. It's definitely another one of those, I know we mentioned earlier in the show, things that motivate us in our daily life. Like the fact that we're helping people become more passionate about fresh produce, that certainly is a key motivator for me to keep doing what I do every day. And I know that, my guests with us today on the podcast, we all agree on that. I mean, we are absolutely bar none in the fresh produce department representing the best of the best as it relates to what we can put in our bodies. All right. So on the topic of regenerative agriculture, regenerative practices, I know that Walmart's doing some nature-based solutions. How are these nature-based solutions, like for instance, the work that you're doing to protect pollinator health? Without the bees, folks, we don't have the delicious nature right berries. All right. So we need to make sure that we're protecting them. And so what's going on at Walmart for that?
Yes.
Laura, we'll stick with you on this.
Sure. This is definitely near and dear to my heart. And protecting pollinators is a key priority. And exactly what you just said, it's estimated that about 75% of the world's food crops depend on pollination. And, bees, we think of bees as, as the pollinators, but there's really a whole entire segment of the animal kingdom that helps pollinate the food we eat. There's butterflies, birds, beetles, there's lots of insects. There's a lot of different things out there. And we also know that one of the contributors to pollinator decline is the use of pesticides. And that's a practice that can be minimized through alternative forms of pest control. So there's something called an integrated pest management, or what we call IPM. And it's a practice that's actually been used for many years in the farming community. And it uses pesticides as a method of last resort for combating pest problems in the field. So IPM has really been identified as a key solution to protecting the pollinated species because you're really minimizing the amount of pesticides used. So what we have committed to at Walmart is sourcing 100% of our fresh produce and floral we sell from suppliers that adopt these IPM practices and as verified by a third party by 2025. So we came out with that statement about a year and a half ago, and so we're working towards that 2025 goal with all of our suppliers right now. And we've also asked our suppliers to protect at least 3% of their land they manage with pollinator habitat. And we'll continue to work with our suppliers to meet these goals.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I know that folks, that when we talk about integrated pest management, it's like bring in the ladybugs because they eat some of the bugs that can be aggressive toward the plants. So that's in layman's terms. All right. That's what that means. Yes. And I love, Laura, that you called out. It's not just the bees. There's lots of pollinators. Let's not forget the great work that the entire ecosystem's doing to make fresh produce accessible and available the way we have it. All right, Michelle, we gotta come back to you now. I've got a couple more questions I want to ask you. We haven't talked enough about the people and supply chains pillar, so let's start there. It's something I'm super passionate about at the Produce Moms. I believe food is culture. It's such a part of human life in essence, and there's so many. Agriculture touches every corner of this globe. So how is Walmart working to promote the well-being of people across the food value chain, from supporting the well-being of people who work in supply chains to elevating the customer experience? How are you guys doing that?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, Lori, right, this is a whole pillar in and of itself of our regeneration strategy. It's a really big area of my day-to-day focus and a big area of focus for the whole company. And I want to bring to life kind of one of the big projects we're working on within produce specifically. So over the past several years, we've been working with a group of NGOs, buyers, suppliers, including Nature Right, and the International Fresh Produce Association to develop the Ethical Charter on Responsible Labor Practices. And that's kind of a mouthful of a name, but what it really is it's a framework for responsible labor practices throughout the produce supply chain with a big focus on what's happening at the farm level. So in the fields where these products are being grown, what's going on with the people who are working there. In 2021, we as Walmart and Sam's Club as well committed to sourcing 100% of our fresh produce and floral products from suppliers who have endorsed the Ethical Charter. So saying yes, we agree that these are key components of our supply chain strategy. We need to make sure that the folks who are working in the field are well cared for, looked after. And I'm really happy to say that we're currently over 99% of our suppliers endorsing the charter. And we're actively working with the last couple to finalize. I'm sure you can imagine we source produce from a lot of different suppliers. So it's really exciting getting that kind of alignment across our whole supply chain. And beyond just endorsing the charter, right, saying I agree, we're also working with the same kind of buyer-supplier group to establish an industry approach that's going to build on the charter and help all the value chain participants really strengthen the management systems at the field level and the practices that are necessary to uphold those principles of the charter. More to come on that, but we're really excited to start rolling out the first round of that program later this year. And you also asked about the customers, right? So that's how are we thinking about people upstream in our supply chain, downstream in our supply chain, right? Walmart, we always talk about the customer being number one. Our whole purpose is around helping customers save money and live better, right? Sustainability, nutrition, all of those components. And we're working every day to make sure the sustainable choice is the everyday affordable choice. So one kind of nice little example that folks can actually go out and see is, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about nature, these place-based projects, and we're doing one with corn farmers in Nebraska to really implement regenerative farming practices on their farm where they grow their corn. And that corn actually goes into our private brand popping corn. And the package itself has a really nice QR code, and you can find it on our website too, that enables customers to look back and really see and understand how the corn was grown, what those practices were, and what really makes that product special. So as much as we can, we're really trying to connect, that end to end, who's growing the product, what's happening with it throughout the supply chain, and make sure our customers really know and can, learn from and enjoy the work that's going on.
Yeah, I love that. And when you can tighten the gap between the farm and the household or the restaurant plate or whatever, if you can tighten that gap between the shopper and the vendor at Walmart, that's a beautiful thing, because it really helps people understand where their food is from, and it enriches their appreciation for the food, and all it takes to get it to their home kitchen. All right, Michelle, we're going to talk about a few things. I hate to call them like hot topics, but I do think that there are some phrases that are thrown around as it relates to the topic of sustainability where people might not actually, they might not have clarity on what they all represent, nor the meaningful impact that's really behind, all of these different values or segments of sustainability. So I wrote down a few: zero emissions, carbon footprint, single-use plastic reduction, and soil health. Of course, there's more. But I do feel like those are some of the ones that are leading the discussions and the programming today as it relates to sustainability. So how are you taking steps to ensure that Walmart is leading the way and having a meaningful impact?
Sure. So I can quick hits how we're thinking about those four kind of buzzword topics, and then talk about how we're thinking about meaningful impact and leadership in that space. So carbon footprint is really about having an understanding of what you are emitting, both in your internal operations and throughout your supply chain. And until you really understand what's going out there, what you're emitting, it's really hard to manage or make any changes. So carbon footprint is really the place most companies start on their sustainability journey. We certainly do a ton of work on that every single year, and work with our suppliers to do the same. Then you start getting into zero emissions, right? So once you understand where your emissions are coming from, how do you then bring that down to zero? And there's tons of different strategies. Some are around, right, adopting renewable energy practices. Some are about cutting out inefficiencies. A lot of the work can be a win-win for the bottom line too. So some of those efficiency plays can also be cost savings, which is really nice. Some things require longer investment. At Walmart, we're really committed to zero emissions, which I want to make the distinction from net zero. Net zero also takes into account carbon credits and carbon offsets, and we're really focused on how can we drive down our emissions without relying on purchasing outside credits. Now, getting into single-use plastic, that's the cup you grab from Starbucks, that's the napkins from lunch, right? That's the single clamshell that has your lunch in it from the cafeteria. We're really trying to, both think about the plastic that's in our products, make sure everything is designed for recycling. Where it makes sense, think about compostability. We've got tons of resources for suppliers, a whole packaging guidelines and the produce packaging guidelines, which are really helpful to kind of walk through what that journey needs to be, both when we work with suppliers, but also thinking about our own brands. And then soil health is a huge piece. That's kind of the cornerstone of regenerative agriculture. It's the cornerstone of produce, right? We can't have nutritious, healthy produce without healthy soils. And with all of the regen ag practices that we're working with our suppliers on, whether it's, in specialty produce or in row crops, or thinking about beef grazing is something else I work on. It's all about making sure that there's healthy microbes in the soil and that soil can continue to give back and grow more products year after year. Yeah. Getting into, how we're making sure we have a meaningful impact, right? We really consider sustainability from a holistic, broader stakeholder value perspective. So those stakeholders are our customers, our associates, our suppliers, shareholders, communities, and the planet. And we're, as a big retailer in this unique position to be able to bring together various stakeholders to solve climate issues together. Back to your geography question, like this isn't one person's problem. It isn't one geography's problem. And it isn't, something that one company alone can solve. And we really understand that we need to be bringing together folks across the supply chain, across, different backgrounds to really help solve these problems. So when we think about setting goals or starting a new project, engaging with a new group, we tap into, our big group of experts across NGOs, industry, suppliers to really help us hone in on priorities and solve those problems. And then we work hand in hand with all of our stakeholders to make sure we're really implementing real change on the ground that delivers value back to our customers.
Hey everybody, you asked, we listened. So I know that you all love our dog food recipes on theproducemoms.com. Together with our brand partners at Sage Fruit, we have actually published a dog food cookbook. So visit theproducemoms.com/ebook and you can download your free copy of the dog food cookbook presented by the Produce Moms and Sage Fruit. Well, I feel like we've talked about it all, but I also feel like we've just scratched the surface. That's what the topic of sustainability will do to you folks. I mean, we could literally have a podcast that only talks about sustainability and we would have compelling stories to tell week after week. So to cram in such a broad topic into one episode is certainly just the scratch of the surface. But I want to thank our guests today because like I said at the top of the show, we've been able to have a really wonderful discussion, taking into account three very different perspectives, but critical stakeholder perspectives from vendors to retailers to shoppers. So we've got all three of those point of views represented today as we had this discussion about how sustainability comes alive in the produce department at Walmart, and with companies that you find in the produce department like Nature Right Farms. So it's been a lot of fun. And I will say, before I pass the mic to our guests, as it relates to, gosh, it's, we're celebrating Earth Day, Earth Week here at the Produce Moms podcast, and a resource that certain, come to the producemoms.com. We have all sorts of content there to help you know where to store your produce once you bring it home, waste reduction strategies at the household level, all sorts of inspirational ideas on how to use your fruits and veggies so that you can mitigate that at-home food waste. But there is a book I want to call out. Dana Gunders, who's a previous guest on this show, she's the author of it. It's called Waste Free Kitchen. It's a great resource oriented, like just a super easy read, call to action, and it helps you if you're thinking right now, or maybe you're thinking due to budgetary reasons, we throw too much food away. It doesn't matter what angle you're approaching it from. I think you'll find great value and purpose in that book. So we'll link it in the show notes. I really believe in it. And Dana's a wonderful steward and big catalyst in the world of food sustainability, and the topic we're talking about today. So with that, I want to ask each of our guests to come back on for their closing remarks. And, before we do that, just one last note of gratitude. It's wonderful to welcome other female leaders and voices to this show. Thank you all for leading the way and providing a space for someone like me to do what I do. So it's wonderful to have you here on the Produce Moms podcast. So Janice, we'll start with you. Something we haven't mentioned yet. Janice was really a catalyst in bringing this whole show together. I was planning on just having it be the Janice McIntosh show, folks, and she was like, I want to invite two amazing women from Walmart to be part of it. So, Janice, thank you for bringing us all together today for this great episode, and thanks for all the work you do. But I welcome you for closing remarks.
Thank you. Well, I'm very glad it came together. I loved listening to the point of view from Walmart, from the produce point of view. I can say that from Nature Right Farms point of view, we're doing everything we possibly can to keep up with all the changes. To speak for the growers, they're doing whatever they can to make sure that the berries that you're getting are grown in a very sustainable manner. Mm-hmm. We're even having new varieties we're putting in the ground that are more sustainable. I mean, we're getting down to that level where the varieties we choose are sweeter, last longer, maybe use less water. we're even looking to that level of growing to get the best berries into the markets. We also, when you talk about health, we've also created a fresh berry value added snacking line to get more snacks into the people's hands that are fresh. So we are trying to get those healthy benefits in something that they can, take as a snack, a lunch snack, whatever it's going to be, on the go snack. So the health part is very important to us because berries are very healthy.
Yeah.
When it comes in terms of, just moving forward, we're making headway and we're going to continue. And if you can check in with us on our website, at naturerightfarms.com. We're going to be starting to update it more often with more sustainable news, which is very exciting. That's a new initiative we're going to do this year. Because, like I said, we haven't done a very good job of telling our story, and we're going to be getting better at it. So, again, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. And Michelle, closing remarks.
Sure. Thanks, Lori, so much for having us. It's been such a pleasure to be here and be able to share our story. One thing I really hope kind of came through in the discussion today is that sustainability is really a journey, right? And it's about continuous improvement, whether we're talking about what a company is doing, sourcing, operational waste, or even just our own learning journeys too about sustainability. So I hope people really kind of think about the fact that achieving goals require strong partnerships, right? And we're all about trying to build those partnerships across supply chains, whether it's, with Janice at Nature Ripe and her growers, or with packaging technology companies that are going to help us deliver more freshness back to the customers. But it really takes everybody's engagement to keep the work moving forward. And I'm really excited to be here at Walmart helping kind of push forward and make that change.
Thank you, Michelle. And Laura, closing remarks and signing us off on today's show.
Thank you. Thanks, Lori. And I also appreciate you having us here. I didn't tell you this, but I've been a follower of you for quite a long time. And I love your Instagram account and everything. And I love what you're doing. So I really appreciate that. And you make our produce look good. So I appreciate that. And I just want to, first of all, I just want to appreciate all the suppliers for what they do. And I want hopefully the listeners to be curious about what the suppliers do and appreciate the great food that they're bringing to the customers, either whether it's through retail or on the plate. They bring sustainable, fresh produce day after day. And, I know Janice said this too, is a lot of these farmers have been doing this a long time. They just haven't gotten credit for it. And I think what we're really trying to do is give them credit for what they know and what they've been doing, and then just encourage them to go further. So just really appreciate the suppliers, and I hope the listeners will be curious about that and learn more about what they're doing.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Produce Moms podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and any preferred podcast platform. Check out the Produce Moms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. Special thanks to everyone involved with the Produce Moms podcast, my amazing team. Stay tuned till next time. The Produce Moms is always accepting new brand partners. If you have a fruit or a vegetable product, or a product that has the same integrity and values of fresh produce, we want to help you. Visit theproducemoms.com, and in the footer of our homepage, please click on the Work With Us link. We look forward to supporting you.